Yeah, how's your garden doing?
It's going good. I'll send you some pictures. You can actually see tomatoes now. So tomatoes are starting to grow. Peppers are getting bigger. So those are doing good. And then over the couple days ago, I planted some squash, a watermelon, and
Okay.
something else in my backyard. So we'll see how those go.
Yeah, like depends on the fall, I think, how well they'll turn out, but you never know. It's surprising since this is your first summer, like this hot heat, those like tomatoes, cucumbers, they love this stuff. They
Really?
love, so if you keep them, you don't want to water them during the hot part of the day, but
Yeah.
because that'll burn their leaves and stuff, especially when they're younger.
I usually go around like 7:30 in the morning.
Yep, early morning, late evening. It's a game changer.
I'm excited to, and then I've got some carrot. I don't know how you know when carrots are done though, because it's under, so it's just the little leaf part growing above ground. So I got to kind of.
So the easiest way is like you can kind of move the dirt around, and then you can get
See
like
how
a
big
scope of how big they are.
Okay.
The thing about carrots, if you haven't done already, like you need to thin them, like because the seeds, if you hand seeded them, they're really tiny and it's hard to get them spaced.
Okay.
If that's what you did, like if you sprinkled them in, they'll grow up all next to each other, and
Oh
the
no,
more
I spread them out. Yeah, I spread
Oh,
them.
were you? Okay. So if you don't need to thin them, then like just kind of dig around and feel your way to. And the longer they're in there, of course, the bigger they get. But the sweeter and juicier they are, the younger they are.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll give it a couple more weeks because I don't know. I can find the date that I planted them, so I don't know how long it takes for those to like fully develop. But
I guess that's my point. Is like they'll keep developing until you pull them.
oh, okay, okay,
That they don't stop growing in that sense, but they get like, what's the right word? More fibrous the longer they grow.
okay.
But at the same time, like once they've kind of matured and got like, what you would expect like a larger carrot to look like, when the ground gets cold, they produce more sugars and they get sweeter.
Okay. I don't even know.
Turnips do the same thing. What's that?
I don't even know what type I planted. I forget what type I planted. I think they're just the multicolored ones.
I like to plant the ones, I think they were called like Nantes, Nantes. But they were known for growing mostly coreless. So usually like when you get a bigger carrot, it has like that inner core. It's like these ones didn't have that or have that as much, so you had more of the nice fleshy part around. A better eating, like a better raw carrot, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully next summer I'll have some.
I mean, you'll have a whole year of experience of what you do and don't like. Try new stuff.
I was looking to see who was at my door. There's a guy walking around trying to cut people's grass, and it's literally raining right now.
Oh no.
Sorry. I meant to send you. I read that article. That was really. I think thrifting is a great topic. So I don't know if we could just use this to like. I had a couple points that we could discuss, and then we could just use this to brainstorm, and then like really record it next time or just whenever.
No, yeah, and I think we can I feel like a couple questions. The one specifically is like, how did you experience thrifting as a kid? How do you experience thrifting as an adult? Like that's something I think would be great to start. I was also thinking about today. I was trying to like recall. It's been a full day. My brain's tired, but like what impact does thrifting have in like these economic uncertainty, especially when you think about the article that we read, how to make sure your thrifting is actually sustainable for all. I thought the salient points in there are about like if you go thrifting in a lower income neighborhood and you live in the outer affluent suburbs, like you are driving up prices on goods that people need. right? As a commodity, not as like a cool thing.
Yeah, that's actually one of the bullet points I had written down is for us to discuss, because I feel like when people talk about thrifting, they don't really think about that too much. They just think about like you can find good quality brands for cheap prices, but they don't really think about, like, okay, I'm a little bit more, I'm not necessarily shopping here because I don't have the money. I'm doing it for other reasons. So like, should I take every nice product that I find, or should I leave some behind for hopefully for someone that actually does need it at that price,
Totally. Like, what does your demand for thrift do to people's ability to buy thrift?
Right. So
and
like,
I just was reflecting. Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just saying thrifting ethically and still being sustainable, because just because you're shopping and buying secondhand doesn't necessarily mean you're being, because what happens is people, because it's cheap, people will buy more of it and only wear it. They're basically turning it into fast fashion because they're only wearing it once or twice.
That's what I think the article is implying. Like how true that is. Like I don't disagree with the premise, but do people do that? I imagine there's a subset of people, right, that are doing that.
Right. I would imagine, but I wouldn't think it would be a large population,
Yeah. I think in addition to that, what I was thinking about today was like the economy and like inflation and how much are prices at a thrift store impacted by rising prices rising due to inflation, right? Like, are they at all? Are you getting priced out that way? Or because I'd also imagine the demand for thrift, clothes and home goods and supplies increases. It's got to be some kind of factor of more than two. You would think, anyways. The higher brand new stuff costs, which is the world we're in currently.
I also think with the resale market, from what I've noticed, that thrift stores have obviously caught on to that trend. And there's like, how like every thrift store has like that back counter where it's like the more high-end things. So I've noticed over the years for those things, those have become like the nice pair of Jordans that somebody donated, or you know what I mean, like the kind of the trendy items, instead of like what it used to be, like the the high class dishware, or
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's like the one space in the thrift store under lock and key.
Yeah, where someone has to pass you the item, and then now you can tell like whoever. I'd be interested to look further into like how they come up with the pricing for stuff. I know some are just every T-shirt is this price, every sweatshirt is this price, but then there's some where every item has its own, custom price. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, like it's just funny how now you just kind of see how they're very trendy items that are back there, and it's like how someone is doing the research and they're pricing it, because when I was younger, there was never like a pair of tennis shoes priced at $50 at the thrift store, But now they're A&B now. So
I think in my memory bank it was video games or video game cartridges, jewelry, and like, to your point, like dishes, pottery, or like little statues or collectibles that had some type of higher value.
Yep.
My guess is, I don't remember this, but Beanie Babies probably sat up on those shelves at one time.
I'm sure.
Which is a fun throwback. The Beanie Baby Index.
Well, then the one article that I had sent, it said only 10 to 20% of the donated items actually make it to display. You know what I mean? So
that I knew. Like the majority of it's put in bales and
and just sent to other countries, and done, with whatever. So I guess one good topic could be like the thrifting ethically, but like from the other aspect of like donating. So like now there's
Donating ethically.
like making like don't just dump all of your old stuff at the thrift store just because it's an easy way to get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like, have a yard sale. There's so many different apps now where you can sell things. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist.
You named it.
You know what I mean? And then especially with the economy and everything like that, like why not make a few extra dollars at the same time?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm thinking back when I would go to the thrift store regularly in my time in central Minnesota. We'd go to Goodwill most of the time. You had the big store floor.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, like as a kid, I remember being in that same space, but it was like a Kmart or something, a Shopko, like retailer. And then that moved to a bigger version of itself, and this one opened instead. Mm-hmm. Or Goodwill backfilled into it. But in the back, like where I imagine all the shipping and receiving was, like there's this, like you could see because it was just a curtain and there was just a pile. Everything got thrown in a pile.
Yeah.
And I always wondered how they sifted and sorted it.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, like most of it, like especially clothing, ends up in and I actually did a little research on this for a college class, and most of it gets like put into bales, like giant bales, like so compacted in the like. Have you ever seen like one of those cardboard crushers in the back?
I've ran those, yeah.
Yeah, but they bale it with some of it going to third countries in Africa or Asia, Eastern Europe, with the intent to like have clothes. Some of them, like an article listed, like that's going to like be like repurposed or shredded into other materials, which is very labor and cost extensive. But what I remember learning, and I should probably validate this in research, but those bales, when you put all that stuff together, some of that stuff rots, and like God knows what's the percentage of stuff that just is garbage by the time it gets there.
Yeah.
And then additionally, the thing that like I remember writing the most about or like researching into was, so imagine being Gambia, making up a country, and that is a country in Africa, but you're Gambia, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. At the geography time of Chad. My memory says it's the western part of Africa, but along the coast in the Atlantic Ocean, where my memory serves. Could be totally wrong. So imagine you being Gambia and you're starting a clothing factory, and you want to produce goods locally to sell shirts or socks to your community, and all of a sudden, like a boatload of socks and shirts in these bales show up that were, who knows what it cost to get there? Not a lot. What does that do to your marketplace?
Yeah.
Like, what is the incentive to even start that business? Like, so it's dumb. Like in the sense of like economically speaking, like, and then you, like, how does a country that needs to build things, because that's where value is added down the manufacturing chain, is like you start with a raw good and you add value by taking the cotton and turning it into thread, taking the thread and weaving it into sheets, using the sheets to make t-shirts. T-shirts get embossed with something so it has a logo on it, and then dyed. And if you own multiple stages of that, like that's every step you take, you can add percentage of value to that you reap back in return. Right. You can't do that if you're not doing any of those things, like in the simplest sense. So that was like a big conundrum. So even though, to your point earlier, like it's not like ethically thrifting, like ethically, I'm not even sure if I'm saying that word right, donating is huge.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
Yep.
And then, I mean, I would argue that ties into recycling. Like, how do you actually recycle things?
Yeah.
What to recycle? And then, now I'm on a roll. I'm rampaging here. Crbnly roll. Take it to the limit. So, back to your, like, how much are you buying? Are you creating this extra demand that's filling your full closet that you're trying to responsibly get rid of, that creates all these downstream impacts, that creates more clothes that are going to get produced, because you just, like, it's a catch-22.
Yep. So, I mean...
So stop. Here's what I'm doing to be Crbnly. I'm wearing the same t-shirts, and I haven't bought new ones for a while.
Same. So I've had this shirt, easily 8 or 9 years, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, so now it's turned into just like a work outside shirt. So now I have a separate drawer where once shirts start getting stained up and, you know, some holes on it, I'll use it as an outdoor to cut the grass or work in the yard type shirt for a little bit until that gets too worn out. So.
I will say, when I was really Crbnly, I would same thing, and then once it wore out its purpose in that drawer, then it would be turned into a rag.
That's going to be my next step in my Crbnly lifestyle, getting to that point. My mom, trust me, I grew up, we had rags made out of everything, you know.
Yeah. So, like, what was this going to help clean? Until like it was no longer useful to do that, and then you didn't feel so bad about throwing it away, or it just kind of decomposes.
Right. So,
but again, that's an assumption. I have no idea. Like, did those shirts that I used to sop up something, or
it'd be nice to like be able to trace a shirt to see, you know, like a shirt that you had growing up or something, to be able to see like where.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we grew up. Hand-me-downs were just the big thing growing up. I mean, especially I had an older brother, so of course, everything that was still wearable once he couldn't fit it, you know, got passed down to me. And then I passed it down to cousins, and so I mean, there were some outfits that, you know, were worn by 4 different kids growing up, you know, that were just passed down, especially if it was an expensive, you know, good name brand product.
Sure. Yeah. Like, you get the gerbos.
Yeah.
You get the gerbos. You get the gerbos.
Yeah, I had gerbos. I don't know if I ever passed them down, because that was back when we used to wear like size 40 jeans, you know.
Oh, the baggy.
I wonder where. That's where I would like to know is where are all those 5X T-shirts and size 42 jeans that like 120-pound kids used to wear back in the early 2000s? Where are all those at?
That's a great question, Shane. Where are they?
I mean, I would wear basketball jerseys that went almost down to my knee. You know, we looked ridiculous.
I mean, you were cool at that moment.
We thought.
It's all that matters.
But I'll definitely have a lot of, like, stories. I mean, I grew up in a thrift store. I don't know about, like, my mom even worked part-time at a thrift store for a few years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was kind of cool because she got to see the stuff, you know, as it came in. When, you know, whenever she sorted or whatever it was they did in the back. So she would actually like find hiding places within the store, and any good things that went on the floor, she would hide them until she had the money to buy them, you know, until payday or whatever. Then she would she'd go to her little stash and come home with, you know, a bag full of. My mom was really, really good at picking like really good quality clothes.
Sure.
At the thrift store, to the point where, like, I mean, she would almost dress like a few older family members that live in Alabama, because, you know, she would know everyone's sizes, so she would for like nice things for them to wear to church, and
always on the lookout,
and just accumulate it, and then eventually just send a huge box of clothes down south to family with. To be wrapped to, you know, whoever's package that was, it'd have their name on it, and it'd be separate, you know, for different family members. And then that's all that's all some people talk about is like how good quality stuff my mom buys, to where, whenever they come visit Ohio, that's one of the first trips they want to take. They think our thrift stores are like just so amazing.
Oh, sure.
My mom has found.
But it's just all the work that she's done to curate that box.
Yep. She takes her time. Yeah. She goes in there and takes her time and just finds
That's interesting.
So I think that would be fun to share, because I mean it's definitely it's been impactful on my, not just like my immediate family, but like my whole family. It's kind of like just a way that my mom she's never really buys anyone brand new things, but if you say you need something, she'll go try to find it at the thrift store or like a yard sale.
She'll get it.
Yeah.
I think my mom was kind of the same way. She would buy new things. We were definitely, I think, had more wealth than your mom and you guys growing up, but not by a lot.
Yeah.
Not that it matters in the sense of like, but I think that resonates a lot with like if it wasn't new, she's going to find a good quality equivalent secondhand.
Yeah.
Through the whatever channels. And that whole, what you just shared, Shane, has me thinking or reflecting on the article about this, like ethically thrifting. And it's like, like the value of going to the same thrift store, or like your mom's example, working at one, is it's always changing. So like, there's a bunch of stuff that don't fit you. Like, finding your size is always the first thing. And then it's gotta be something you would wear or is of good quality. So you have to go regularly. So like the article like stressed, don't do that. Don't shop regularly, but like to actually, because that's the trade-off of going to any type of thrift store, is that there is no continuity in size, style, color, fit. That's what you go to the department store for, because they're producing it new and you can get what you need. Exactly.
And it kind of makes shopping there funner, because you just never know what you're going to find. Like
it's a treasure hunt, right?
I
think recently, it's probably more than a month ago, but I think it was a woman down in Austin, Texas. She identified or bought it because she believed it to be like, it was a statue's head. And it turned out to be missing from like not really the Louvre, but some big museum, and it was vetted and proved to be the actual thing that's like, made in by the Romans or the Greeks. Like, and how it ended up at the thrift store in Austin, Texas, God knows. Back to the question, like, what happened to my size 42, Jabos? Like, how did this end up there? Like, it's a fun story to think about.
No, yeah.
Even make up.
And I just remember, my mom would just come home with things and she would just think it was the greatest find in the world,
Mm-hmm.
And
when I moved into, got divorced and moved into my first home, that's how I stocked it. All the kitchen, and it was piece by piece, like interesting glassware, but it was quality. I would just go without knives for a while until I found what I needed, and none of it quite matched, except for it was an eclectic set that, had some theme or variability of theme, that I had a lot of pride in. Like that, that's the thing that because I found this, I bought this at a deal. I was looking for something and waited until I got the thing that made the most sense.
There's even, I saw a YouTube video with a guy that he's a big thrifter, and all of his silverware in his home is like actual silver forks and knives that he's found at, because he just digs through them. He looks for the silver code on every single one, and every now and then he'll luck up and find an actual, silver utensil at the thrift store, and he's just collected them over the years, and he has a very valuable collection now, So you could just look at it from, there's just so many different angles for thrifting. It can be, you can actually make a living off of it. You can look at it from a way of being ethical about it. You can look at it of just saving yourself money, and buying the things that you need. Because I've bought quite that might be a good idea too. I'll take some good pictures, and that could be one of the social media posts for this, is like some good finds that I've found to help decorate my house or things like that from the thrift. Because I've found some cool art and different things, so lamps and whatnot. So, but no, this is one of my favorite topics right now for sure. Because this goes into just all kinds of other things like that can introduce into the
totally
people that I follow that do the resale. Because I would also like to pick their brain on like how do they feel about that, because it's not very ethical what they're doing if you think about it. I mean, they are kind of like making sure that these items get reused, but at the same time, they're shipping these items across the world sometimes. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the impact they're having after like reselling it, especially they're taking very good items out of the thrift store that someone that doesn't have the money and is not doing it for resale purposes may need. Maybe picking their brain to see how they feel when they kind of think about it from that angle, you know?
Yeah. Like in a non-confrontational way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally get it. Love it. Well, that feels like a good place to like end our first foray into thrifting.
Yeah. So I'll have like, we can do like an actual, we'll have this recorded so I can actually go back and listen to this while I work and make like a note.
I marked the clip at the end. Like, I feel like that was about 25 minutes. It's over that, like, recording, but of quality thrift convo.
Yeah. And then for social media, for like, some social media stuff, like I said, it could be the pictures. I still need to figure out or find somebody that's good at what is it called? Making that picture that I was talking about, like it looks like a mall, but there's next to like a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton store in the middle, there's a thrift store in the mall now, and there's a line of people, lined up outside that store instead of the high fashion brands. Would be kind of a cool little image visual, I guess. But we can